It's hard to understand the way that you went out. I bet you're living with a little hint of doubt. Maybe next time when you gotta show your hand, you won't cut and run, you'll finally make a stand. 'Cause I know it's true, I'm finally getting to you. We're not through. Yeah, I know it's true, I'm finally getting to you. Existential questions always get you down. All you want to know is are we lost or found? Is there something that you feel you need to chase? I bet you thought you put me in my place. 'Cause I know it's true, I'm finally getting to you. We're not through. I know it's true, I'm finally getting to you. Yeah, I know it's true, I'm finally getting to you. We're not through. Yeah, I know it's true, I'm finally getting to you. You can run, you can hide, but inside, I'm finally getting to you. Yes, it's true. I still love you, but I am getting to you.
Stand by to initiate release sequencer. On my mark.
We're on express elevator to hell. Going down.
2, 1. Mark.
Welcome back to the Resupply. Forgot to check my mic. With me, guy next door.
Me, DK, hopefully with a
And
working
me,
mic.
fan. I want to talk right over DK because I'm so fucking professional.
Hang on.
Didn't realize he had more things to say.
Hang on.
What the fuck?
Hang on, wait. It's alright, guys, we edited it out. Welcome back to the Resupply with me, guy next door.
Me, DK?
And
And
me,
beat that.
man?
Oh, I took right over the
Oh.
top of your intro.
We're super
After
professional.
such a great start today.
At
So
all
good,
times.
so good. Look, we're bringing you your double tap of all things Space Marines and Laser Force, whatever. I was thinking about it before we went live. I was like, today's gonna be a bad show. and then I was
Self-fulfilling
like,
prophecy.
yeah. Then I was like, don't think that way, man. If you think that way, it's gonna be a bad show. And so then I was like, oh no, it's gonna be a good show. Turns out I was right the first time. Hello to you, chat. Nice to see you guys. Nice to see you two beneath me.
Blimey.
How's it
To
going?
borrow a DK phrase.
You feeling? Is everyone feeling good? Everyone's on the rails.
Yep. Feeling great. Feeling much better than you were at the end of last week's show.
Oh, that's trade secrets.
That's a very low bar.
Yeah, it
as
was.
well, so.
Yeah, at that point I could have limboed. Stallion, you're right. We're at the high point of professionalism. It's what we like to do. Actually,
speaking of which, I want to do a really quick shout out to friend of the show, Tivia Chick. Exclamation Tivia in chat. Tivia also produces laser tag centric content, specifically a podcast over on YouTube. I don't know the YouTube link, but if you go to that link there, that'll take you to the podcast. Man, Tivia's content is so much more professional than us. we definitely cover a different side of content, I think. Not necessarily better. I don't think better. Probably not even a little bit close to being better. But certainly we cover the Yahoo end of like the laser tag.
It's more like the crazy Ira and the douche.
Yeah.
Of Laser Force content.
Yeah. I was like, I wonder if we should we should do that sort of thing. Like we're all professional and like, because Tivia sounds legit like a radio host, like a proper interviewer.
Well, so funny thing, it's because she actually has a background in radio.
Yeah.
So
this isn't even our day job, so whatever.
Yeah, so there's an entire reason why, when she's doing interviews and her content, why she sounds like she has a background in radio. It's because she legitimately does.
She's great. It's definitely a different vibe. It's far more informative, far more professional, and just probably all around better than what we do here. But hey, we've got you guys in chat. You guys come here for a reason. It's probably to, see where the bar is set. And her audience is probably less scummy. How we like?
I mean, let's not go that far. I mean, it is her audience is other laser tag players, and
I'm sure it's just the right amount of scummy.
Yeah, exactly.
I like to think about if she is the 5-star dining experience to our trailer park. That's how I like to think about it.
I don't think we're a trailer park. I think
we're at least like a Chipotle or something.
We're a food cart. At the very least, we're a food cart.
Yeah.
And you get some really great food carts. So,
it may not be the best thing in the world, but you know what you're getting.
Yeah, we're like the Turkish ice cream guy who's always like, "Here's your ice cream, gotcha."
Just kidding.
Yeah, that's us. That's where we sit on the spectrum.
We're like, we're going to talk about Laser Force this week. Just kidding.
Yeah, after we talk 30 minutes about, I don't know, pooping and like Than's issues and like, all that sort of stuff. That's basically how we roll. So really, we shoehorn in like 15 minutes of laser tag centric content. We are the Schwan Truck. What's a Schwan Truck? What's that?
It's like a food delivery truck, if I remember correctly.
Oh.
It used to be a lot bigger than it is now.
Oh.
If it's what I'm thinking of, I could be completely wrong.
Shout out Schwan Truck.
One of the many companies that just like services schools and prisons exclusively in the U.S. and never goes broke.
It's a weird dynamic to service.
Not really. Not if you know U.S. schools or prisons.
Schools or prisons. Same. Less
There's
guns.
pipeline there.
There's less guns in prisons, I guess. So we. Oh, that's terrible. That's man. I didn't think
edit that out.
I didn't think. Don't worry about it. We edited it out, guys. Don't worry about it.
Wow, we're going some dark places today.
Yeah.
Should we also just talk about the submarine implosion?
No. It's been a week of that. I've been getting just so many memes coming. I don't like to talk about that. Like, people are like, oh, dumb rich people, but like anytime people die, it's sad. So, right. So we gotta talk about some stuff. I got distracted just before. I mean, it's not hard. I get distracted all the time. But Dan came in earlier and gave me like a handful of Chinese candies. And I was like, I'm going to eat one before the show started, and I opened it, and I think it's just like a chocolate-covered prune, which like feels like a trick. What a way to trick people! Yuck. But we're going to talk about some stuff, but I wanted to first ask you guys, how's the week been? What have you been up to? What's new in your neck of the woods?
I mean, my week was quarterly IT planning, so that's unusual. My
Poor
usual
bastard.
fighting with people to schedule things. The only thing that a bunch of things did go right this week. The biggest of which being we got basically told that all the budget issues that we've been fighting for the last few weeks that have been really stressing me out. One of our VPs basically just kind of went, yeah, do the work and the bean counters will figure their shit out at the end of the year, but do the work. It's like, cool, sweet. That, reduces my stress level a little bit. Doesn't mean I can, buy a last minute plane ticket and come to Nats or anything, but it does reduce my stress level a little
I
bit.
did see there were like flight specials actually. I don't know if it goes the other way, but Air New Zealand were having special on flights, so maybe you could rustle something up.
Nope.
If we'd have had it a week later, Nats a week later, it would have cost you guys like I think $1,000 less to come, which would have been great, but no.
I don't think we knew that at the time, though.
No, I don't think we
It's
did.
funny how that works.
Yeah. Stallion's pushing. You could.
Yeah, I see that, but it's not happening. It is 100% not.
Would that I can control the strange whims of airlines and what they decide to set their prices.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to fly on a Wednesday? You can get fucked. Thursday? Oh, come right this way.
Come
no problem.
over here. Unless you're flying to a major center, in which case you can get fucked. So we didn't. Did we do a show last week?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's right. I remember now.
The whole end of that show is kind of a blur for some reason.
Yeah, bro. We 100%
Lucy.
did a show last week. You bailed at the end of it without doing any of the usual closeout, which was hilarious for both me and DK.
Nah.
And out.
We
Okay,
we were on the money, is what we were.
This lack of professionalism started at the end of last week and has carried into this week. That's what's happening here.
All right. Well, some DK, have you got anything you want to talk about that's better than quarterly whatever?
I was at the business factory doing a business.
You know what? Fuck both of you. Just in every way, shape, and form. Fuck the both of you.
Stephen went to the dump shop.
Oh, he certainly did.
That's how we
Both
should have ended last
assholes.
week.
You're both assholes. I don't like either of you. Fuck both of you.
Yeah. Anything more interesting? No, probably not. I'm just another week of navigating the again arbitrary nature of things like the U.S. health system. Sometimes they want to charge you like $600 for this drug, and then sometimes they're just like, "Oh, you got a refill on that? It's like $50." Then why did it cost $600 before? I don't understand.
He's so angry. Well, we got to play some more lasers this week,
Hey.
which was nice for us. We
Well,
didn't.
good for you.
I was like, I'm wondering if he's gonna do it. He did do it. He fell right in my trap, right in my fish hole. But we got to we got to play some lasers this week. Played a little bit of Space Marines, but we played a bunch of standard because we had some newer player, and it was great. Like, it was really cool to just kind of get back to grassroots laser tag, just run around and shoot people in a laser tag arena.
The great ones practice the fundamentals.
Yeah. Me and King were actually talking about it, and he, like, surprisingly, so there's been like a feeling for a lot of like long-time tag players that I only play Space Marines, and I think that it's spoilers, neither played on grass or anything. You know what I mean? But like it's like a lot of people in our community, I think, maybe it's a lot of people, I don't know, but they take the stance of, if it ain't Space Marines, I don't want to know about it. And I think that some of the magic of why people play laser tag in the first place gets lost if you skip out all the starting stuff. So all of the, playing the individual standards, the team standards, Supercharge, Shadows, Dead Aim, like a lot of those games that we don't really play a lot of anymore, you miss out on Highlander. You miss out on building like the fundamental love of the game. And maybe that's why we don't, us I'm speaking about Auckland as a site, but it could probably be extended to everywhere else. I think that's why we don't get the growth numbers and the longevity of a lot of players that have been like us who've been around for decades at this point, because they don't get to experience the simple joy of basic laser tag. They get thrown into deep into Space Marines, and we lose players because of it. Because you need to do the basic stuff first before you get to the advanced stuff.
I think about that a lot, honestly, because the way that I came up through laser tag, it was learning about all the different games. Space Marines 5 was literally one of the last games that I learned because it was not played at the Sacramento site for almost the first year that it was open. So I played for probably a few weeks before I went to like one of the special game nights. But when Sacramento first opened, basically I think it was Thursday, some night of the week, doesn't matter what night of the week it was, they had a special game night, and it would rotate every week. So one week it would be like it's like half price Gladiator games, and then next week was half price Highlander games, and then Time Warp games and stuff like that. So I would basically learn a new game every week, and it was so cool because there was this system that I had no idea what this other thing was.
Yep.
The first time I played Highlander, I had no idea what missiles were, and that game ended real quick for me. So, but hey, I learned what missiles were. That was great. And like then after a couple of months, like I had literally had to wait for one of the seasons of Space Marines to end because I like just missed it when I signed up to be a new member, and then leagues ran for like 8 weeks at a time back then. So I had to wait for the next one to start before I played any Space Marines. And that was Space Marines 4. And so I had to learn that first. And then like eventually, like I think it was some after party for a league. Then we're like, well, let's try Space Marines 5, because I guess when they first opened the site, they played it once or twice, but they didn't really understand like how it actually worked. And so we just kind of had to figure out that game. But since we had the foundation of knowing how all those other games worked, it was a lot easier to kind of get into that. And I really had wanted to push that model in maybe the last 2 years that our site was open to, hey, let's do a side training night on Thursday where we introduced some new games and things like that. And I got a couple other members on board with me to like, hey, let's show up on Thursdays. We're going to play other games. But there was unfortunately not really a commitment really from management in advertising that as an alternative night. And there was no commitment from the employees as to either wanting to run those games or learning the games themselves.
Yeah.
Because that was huge. The first year that SAC was open was like all the employees played, and they played a lot.
Yes,
because
we did.
It was like this was the cool new thing.
Yes, we did. Yeah, that's all, and that's always kind of one of the, and I feel like we've done this show before as far as like
I'm sure we've talked about it.
Your staff has to be engaged for.
It sucks. It really, really sucks.
For advanced play to take off in general, because your staff has to be able to explain complex games to people and kind of be able to step them through. Yes, this is a basic game. Okay, now here's this game that takes the basic game and adds on to it a little bit, and and you building block up. It gets back to the thing of building a member base is hard and involves a lot of commitment from a lot of different facets of the business, both player, employee, and management.
Yeah, and for about the first 2 or 3 years that the facility was open, we really had that nice mix. There was real love and passion from ownership. There was a base of employees who loved the games, and there were members who went out of their way to like help bring up and train new people. And we had like huge leagues for a while, but stuff falls off as it always does.
Yeah,
it's kind of life.
Well, and I think like, and I think that's why it's important to have the infill there for players who are coming in to replace the players that are moving on. So if they appreciate just playing tag, I think the way that, because we've got a group chat messages sort of change things for people's commitment levels, because it's now easier for people not to turn up, I guess, because you can kind of predetermine whether or not people are going to show up or not on a members night or whatever. And if the majority of people were like, we don't have enough to play Space Marines, then nobody goes. Versus in the past, where if you have a night where there's only 9 players or something, 9 or 8 players, you just spend the night playing other games that aren't Space Marines. But yeah, we're at a stage where the newer people, oh, what's up, Slam Man? What's going on? DK asking kids to come to members night with candy. Was it Chinese candy? But yeah, I think that's probably why the commitment is one of the reasons why commitment is less. But yeah, it was interesting talking to King about it, because King sort of got a lot of other stuff happening in his life at the moment, and sort of put lasers on the back burner, has come back for this Nats, and is like committed to playing. But it was awesome to see him get excited about actually playing individual standard on a members night. He was like, that was great fun, we should do another one. I was like, okay, let's go. And we were talking about the incentives back in the day. He was like, my first goal was to become a level 6. Like, I wanted to play as much standard as I could to become a level 6. And then the next goal after that, our management, our ownership put a thing in place where their standard membership card was purple. But if you played more than 50 standards, as soon as you played your 50th standards, you got an special orange membership card. And then that was supposed to give you like discounts and stuff, like small discounts or whatever. But like all these things put in place for people to achieve, to keep coming back and have these little milestones in place. So it'd be cool to see some of that stuff kind of come back. Yeah, especially the custom thing,
Well, and that's something that Let's Force is obviously trying to do with the game achievements and stuff like that. Like, they're trying to have things within the system that makes it stickier for,
but they don't
for players.
They're not pushing it, Like, for the most part, like, there are some that people want to get. So, like the golden handshake one. Like, there's the play X number of sites, there's the play in X number of continents or countries or whatever, and those ones for us who travel to play the game, those ones we like. But for the most part, the public don't give a fuck about achievements, and I think it's a missed opportunity. It feels to me that Laser Force implemented a system of getting people to care about repeat play, and then never did anything with it. They didn't, seemingly, like, it's not present in our local site. They don't push achievements. No, like, people don't care about achievements because there's no real tangible thing, or it's not pushed.
Yeah, but that's a site level issue as opposed to a global system level.
Yeah, but like, surely that it comes from the top, right? Like, they should be the ones to be like, hey, here's some things you could do around the achievements. Like, maybe I don't know. It's
link
cool.
it to redemption, or if you collect so many achievements, you get a free game.
Something like that
kind of thing.
Yeah, like, that stuff is there to be value added, and at the moment it doesn't add much value at all. It's only really there to appease to, like, achievement hunters in video games, but are they the target audience? Maybe, but do they know that there's even an achievement system built into the system? Probably not, because a lot of sites aren't pushing the membership.
Achievements are cool, but back in the day, we had plaques when you got the 1,000,000 point club, and then we had the Dragon Slayer club. If you scored a certain amount against the Warbot, you actually got your name like painted up on this board and like this.
That
this
stuff
style.
is
that was like so much
and
cooler
cool.
than it was cool.
Yeah,
it was the coolest nerd thing of the late 90s
because it made it.
And then they software updated, and we could no longer do the Dragon Slayer club because you could control the Warbot and not score points against him all game anymore.
Yeah.
Boo. Boo.
But like stuff like that cements people's connection to their sites, to their home sites. Like if your name gets immortalized or whatever somewhere in the arena, or whatever it is, if you get just something tangible that you can look at and be like, hey, you see this thing? That's my name. Check it out. People love that. I love that shit. I'm surrounded by tangible shit that I love, you know.
Quirky, tangible shit.
Yeah. But that's you know, I sort of raised this with management back, you know, doing like when we were supposed to host in 2020. Hey, what if we do, you know, a special Nats edition of the membership cards? Or I think another one was, what if you, as part of like birthday parties, if you give them the opportunity to have a custom printed membership card, or you know, you do things like be a member of the Platinum Club and you have a Platinum Club membership card, and you know, it's just perceived value, the stuff that's tangible.
People love platinum cards. What can I say?
Fucking love that shit.
You call anything a platinum card, people are gonna want it.
Yeah, because it's got an air of like exclusivity, you know, like love it. It's this sort of stuff I feel could be done but isn't being done, and I think that maybe sites are missing a trick with this sort of shit, because you know, it's this sort of shit that makes people want to come back. Score Screen used to show the top players of the day. It doesn't even do that anymore. Yeah, like they used to do. Daz. I'm selling platinum Daz friendship cards, $200 each.
Oh, first winter's really cool, but then the rest of it kind of fell off.
We used to have at Auckland Lasers. We used to have the players of the week or the month. Dan, you probably know better than me. But basically, it was the leadership boards that got printed out for that month or that week or whatever, and stuck to the wall. And you could actually go in there and be like, see that 007 is me, or some shit like that, you know.
That was one of my many tasks as an employee when I was there. Was very faithfully every Monday morning printing up the weekly lists, and making sure they were displayed.
Yeah, seeing how many Gokus were in there. I don't know. We're sort of talking about stuff that we initially weren't going to talk about, but that's okay because I like this. Sign you up for a Cuzzy membership card, 100%. What's up? Hey, bro.
Oh wait, you mean we got distracted and sidebarred ourselves into a different conversation?
To be fair, this actually is Laser Force content.
Yeah,
so it's not like we just went off into the weeds.
What I did want to show, we actually got so thank you, special shout out to the European contingent, specifically Smalley, Marcus, and Lucy. I got sent a photo of the wristbands for the tournament. They look cool. I'm kind of tossing and turning about whether or not to show you guys. Fuck, I'll show you guys.
He can't contain himself.
I can't. That's so cool. Let me just quickly talk amongst yourselves, kids. But like, so this, where I was going with,
Steve, some tangible shit to show you, as we've been talking about.
But this
you don't get one of these if you don't come to Nat. So don't be like, oh, can you mail me one? No, you should have come to Nat.
You should have come to Nat. But it's this kind of stuff. Yeah,
well,
don't worry, I got
off both of you.
On the show, but nobody else.
Yeah, but no one else. They get special treatment. Fucking typical white people. I've got a. Let me.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, my bad. Let me quickly bring this up, and I'll share it. I'll try and do it through this way, and then we'll segue into what we were going.
We'll see if it works.
It'll either work or it won't.
But it's this
Very
exact
binary.
stuff. You guys will see it before everyone else do. So just bear with me. This stuff is the stuff that I think sites really should get behind doing this kind of custom stuff. Let me go over here. Resupply. Hopefully this works. There we go. So these are the bands. We got 2 made up. They are RFID. There's RFID chips in the black parts of the bands. And we got a bunch made up for the Nats players. So basically, everyone attending Nats this year will get one of the Laser Force International's New Zealand 2023 wristbands. That'll be included as part of your entry fee. The resupply ones, I haven't decided what we're gonna do with those yet. Whether people want to buy them or what, but they look awesome. They came out really cool, and they match the Nats shirt.
Yeah, that's one thing I like about them quite a bit.
Yeah, they've got the all the Space Marines positions and the phasers on them, and you're taking enough of your money. I'm gonna shill so many things before Nats.
That's what you think, Ducky.
Hey, Ducky, are you gonna do whitewater rafting? Because I've been thinking about it, and I know that there's people that have fucked up backs. So funnily,
all the over 35 players.
Funnily enough, a bunch of those people play disc golf. So I was like, well, maybe instead of going rafting, we go play disc golf. But I don't know. We'll figure that out in the chat group. But these look really, really cool. And I don't know if the screen share does it justice, but like these parts are embroidered, and then the other parts are printed with the Always Remember Backtrack Kids. Really, 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 really cool. But thank you to Lucy and Lucy's daddy for sorting those out for us. Lucy will be bringing those with. So
those are pretty awesome.
It's gonna be cool. What if it was platinum whitewater rafting? Yeah, it's the same.
Whitewater rafting, platinum water rafting.
Yeah, but I'll let you know what the cost is for that after. It's not monetary; it's something else.
I mean, if the rafting is the same place I went in 2003 when I was there, there is a nice there's a nice multi-meter waterfall that you go over, which is fun and terrifying.
My fan almost died.
And almost killed me. Yeah, accurate.
So it's fucking terrifying.
Yes, actually, it was great. I mean, great in hindsight, but yeah, at the time, very, very terrifying.
Platinum just sounds like an excuse to charge 250 grand on a carbon fiber vehicle not fit for purpose. Oh no.
JJ's back.
What's up, Kitty? Yeah, I could talk all
Show's
day.
favorite ginger, and I don't mean Rusty.
I could talk all day about like the branding side of things and all that kind of shit that I love, because yeah, if people are like, hey, we've released this special edition, blah blah blah, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna have a look at buying that thing. I would buy so many Laser Force special editions things. But I think it's good marketing. It seems like good marketing to me, and it seems a shame that people aren't doing more of that kind of stuff, like tailor making things to make people personally invested in their business and want to come back and spend more money.
So basically, the message of the resupply is: you're doing capitalism wrong. You should be exploiting us far more.
Yeah, 100%. And I will try to my dying breath to exploit all of you for your money. Right,
at least you're honest about it.
Yeah, well, yeah, I've, to a fault. Let's talk about what we're going to talk about. So, just before we went live, for those of you who don't know, there's currently an Armageddon tournament being played. Do you guys know where?
It's
Long
East
Island,
Coast.
right?
It's New York, New New Jersey base because they started day one, or yesterday, the day before, at Aztec's new facility on Long Island. So they did Laser Force and like two other systems there that they imported in, and then I think today was supposed to be Delta Strike, but I saw something on the Facebook group that was a clusterfuck and a half, and
Oh no.
yeah, there's a whole thing there.
I believe that is the slogan for Delta Strike.
It's a
Well-
clusterfuck and a half.
Well, apparently it was when they booked the site, it wasn't installed yet, and it literally got installed like less than a week ago. And from what I was reading before, like it just looks like there were some massive systemic issues with their software. Yeah. Anyway, I mean,
Give
it
Laser
happens.
Force, kids. It's better.
You know what company doesn't have systemic laser or software issues? Laser Force.
Yeah, funnily enough, that's what Aztec has in his site in Long Island.
Smart.
So Aztec made the right choice.
That one is some sort of nutty chocolate. Just for those of you who are interested. Next up on the list is this llama cookie. So yeah.
Made with real llamas.
Ew.
I killed them.
So yeah, there's a new Laser Force opening in Perth. Oh, how far away from you?
Nice.
Was that like across town? So we were watching some of the replay from yesterday's Armageddon session because we were gonna try and fake our way through talking about their competition. But they played Space Marines yesterday. Have one of you guys got your phone on vibrate?
Maybe.
Motherfucker. This is a professional show. Do I have my...
Have you met us?
Sorry, I'll turn my vibrator off. Sorry about that.
It's at June the... You can't just make places up. June the Loop. Yeah, so we were watching some of the replay from yesterday's show, and I was kind of looking at it, and they were playing 8-a-side Space Marines, which is brutal, but they are not Space Marines players for the most part. There's a couple of people in there. Cody's a Space Marines player, and I think there's like maybe 3 or 4 other people that have played a decent amount.
Yeah,
for the
like
most...
Aztec, Redneck Tech, they've been to Force tournaments.
Yeah.
So.
And I think both of them were on Cody's team, right?
Yeah, and so was Logan. I don't remember Logan's last name, but
right.
Linago, yeah.
There was Fenra as well. I think I saw that name in there, which I don't know if that's a name that I recognize because of tag or outside of tag. Anyway,
who knows? They all jumble together now.
We were watching the tournament, and the guy who was commentating doing a pretty decent job, but he mentioned a few things that were not accurate about Space Marines, but also I was watching, and it got me thinking about what are the things that you need to know if you are spectating a Space Marines tournament. And so I figured we'd sort of, rather than pick on the dude who was doing the commentating, because he was trying, but he's not a Force player, so we got some things wrong, which is fine. But it occurred to me that I don't think we've sort of dived into what you need to be aware of if you're not a Space Marines player, but you want to understand kind of what's happening in a game and understand what it is that you're looking for when you're spectating in a tournament, because it's becoming more and more common to have something like this setup, where some weirdos are on camera and they're talking about what's happening in a game, for the most part. But yeah, I've sort of titled it what are the important things to look for as a SM5 spectator, and I've made a few bullet points. Actually, Stanley, you did a great job. The very first point I wanted to bring up, and you guys can add your commentary on this, but the first one I wanted to say is, if you're setting up a stream to put up on Twitch or whatever to have people come and watch your tournament, the scoreboard for Space Marines 5 is king. The scoreboard is the most important thing you need to have on your stream, and it needs to be legible. Stuff like a face cam for the commentators, internal cameras, all of that stuff, that's all flavor, to add flavor to your stream, but the main ingredient is the scoreboard. Do you guys concur?
I concur, and should give you just like the little rundown on why we titled the episode. Why we did, because I would watch Laser Force replays quite a bit, and my partner would always just be staring at me, looking at the screen that just has names and numbers that are floating around, and she's like, "It's like you're trying to read the Matrix." It's just like this is complete nonsense to anybody who doesn't know what's going on. But I'm just like, yeah, I don't even see the code anymore. It's just blonde, brunette, redhead.
Thank you. Yeah. You were gonna say, Than?
Well, no, just the yes, like this particular view. I mean, this is kind of what we had for the longest time, minus the face cams. Like it was just the scoreboard view for the streams, plus some chat. Is it nice to have some cameras in various places to show the people doing the commentating, and maybe some cameras inside the arena to show high traffic areas. Sure, that's nice flavor, but it's because our game tends to be, it's going to sound like a very weird statement for me, it tends to be a little less static. Like taking Zone as an example. Zone has very clear, it's all base attack, base defense. If you put some cameras on each base, you're going to cover a fair amount of the action. Fine, cool. Space 5, I mean, yes, you generally have a couple of resupply spots that are more popular than others in any given maze. But the reality is you can have, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, real hot spots of action in any given maze, and trying to cover that is rough, for lack of a better phrase, for a
beat right now
for a variety of reasons. So if you've got the scoreboard, you can infer so much just from this.
Mm-hmm.
Just from this. This is all you really need. Everything else is just a bonus at that point.
So part of the reason why the scoreboard is the most important thing is, or actually the reason why the scoreboard is the most important thing is because that's where all the obviously relevant information is. But the scoreboard, like you said, DK, it doesn't mean anything if you don't know what you're looking at, right? So probably I wanted to go through, and I saw that the person doing commentary at Ginnam was kind of going through and breaking down the scoreboard, but I wanted to break it down in a way that is probably most important to least important to kind of give context. So the thing that I have that's the most important thing to me when looking at a scoreboard and kind of deciphering it, the first thing I always look at is the lives total. I think lives is probably one of the most important pieces of information, because whilst the score is important, the team with the highest score at the end of the game usually is the winner.
Usually, but not always.
Usually, but not always. Yeah, but the lives total throughout the game, I think, gives a better indication of how the game is flowing. So a lot of the things I keep hearing in some other commentary streams is, oh wow, the game looks so even because the total scores are within 1 or 2,000 points of each other.
You got one with a stopped game, I think.
What's that?
Somebody must have eaten shit. The game abruptly stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, still, like we could talk about, which we don't need to like let the game run. We could talk about what the state of the game is at any given time. Because like in this game, for instance, without really too much other kind of context, yes, red team is in the lead by score. They're up by $3,000, but that $3,000 doesn't really give any kind of indication as to how far red team is actually ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Like, absent anything else, you say red team's ahead by 3,000 points. Okay, cool. But if you were an experienced player looking at this game, you would know that red team is like 99.999% to win this game.
Yeah.
Because of the state of the game's in.
So what do you look at first?
So, I mean, the first thing I would always look at is what the team's respective medic lives are at.
Yeah,
because
me too.
That is like usually the first domino to fall. Not in this particular case, because green has a scout go out before I die. Although it looks like I'm probably not too far behind at this point. So look at the medic lives first. And if one medic has considerably more lives than the other, it's like, okay, the team that has more medic lives available is probably winning. They're probably ahead because they have a better defense that's set up for their medic. Unless you're also looking at things like number 2, what are the respective commander specials at? So has either commander nuked? How many times they've been likely to nuke? Is a big nuke string coming? Because maybe one team has a medic who has like 10 more lives, and the other team like, oh wow, they're really beating on them. But that team is lagging behind. If their commander has 65 special points, they could reverse that real quick, because that's at least 9 lives that are coming off of the enemy medic. So that in that case, it might be closer than you would otherwise think.
I think like if you are brand new to this, then you need to understand like exactly what the columns are. And
so, probably start more basic.
Yeah, and if you didn't already know, you've got in the first column the rank, which honestly doesn't mean anything in the context of how Space Marines game go, but basically it's just who's got the highest score on each team. Which I don't think you kind of understand because the players shift in the position, but I don't think they used to, right? Did they? No, they did.
It didn't always flip the teams. Like it used to keep the teams static where they people would always up and down within the respective columns on individual teams.
Yeah.
But that is something you want to look at, because if you're a newer player, you might sort of look at, okay, well, why are these players always scoring so much more? Why did some of these players have barely any points at all? Are they just not doing anything? So understanding like the interaction of the positions in that kind of case is pretty crucial, because by and large, most games that you're watching, the commander on each team is probably going to have the highest score on the team. Not always, but probably. And then probably either the heavy or maybe one of the scouts is going to be second. And generally speaking, the resupply players are going to be ranked 5 and 6. And exceptions happen all the time, but the resupply players are not really expected to be, the carry players in terms of score and things like that. So understanding that it's like, okay, well, it seems like these players barely ever score any points, but that might not really be their role in that particular game. They get points, great, but their focus is on making sure the rest of the team can score points.
Second column is the code name. Fairly self-explanatory. That's just telling you who the player is. The third column, which doesn't have a title above it, but that's the little symbols next to the code name column. That tells you the positions that each player playing. C for commander, H for heavy, S for scout, A for ammo, M for medic. We did a deep dive into each of these positions, so if you want to go back and check those deep dives out to see what they are, you should go to our YouTube channel, !YouTube in chat. That'll take you right there. You go through and have a look at the deep dive into each position and how to play them. The next column is the target column. That only shows up as players start getting their targets. We'll talk about.
But this is also an important thing to look for, also, because if one team is way ahead on score, you would also then want to look at the target column, because the team that has a lot more targets, well, they essentially have the freebie points in the game.
Which is important, because in this instance, if you looked at red team versus green team, and like you said, red team are ahead on score as it is, but they are also ahead on score with far less targets gotten, which means they are dominating the other team from a scoreboard perspective. And usually, the higher the score, the more you're like wrecking the other team. It's unnecessary; it just clogs up the screen. Maybe, I guess, if you're saying, well, I mean, so you can also tell if a player's gotten their targets because if you ever look at their score, it's the last digit of their score. Basically, it adds a 1 on the end for each scoreboard. What's the better way of saying that?
Yeah. The ones column indicates the number of targets that
Yeah.
you've shot in game, because standard settings are you get 1,001 points for each target.
Yeah.
So it used to be, before we had this nice visual representation, which is really what it's there for, is for newer players to see what they got or didn't get in the game. But that was always an easy thing in training new players, that hey, you look at this column of your score, then you only got one of the targets, not both of them. So
at least in this instance,
that's something easy you can fix the next time around, is make sure you get your bases.
Yeah, and this and with this, like, the well, I understand Ducky's argument in chat that it's unnecessary, clogs up the screen. I do like that it basically gives you the indication of what you either got.
Yeah, which one of the targets you missed or whatever.
Yeah, so if you only got one, okay, which one did you get? It with the original DOS software, when it was just the numbers behind it, you kind of you had no indication ever of which one you actually missed. And I don't know about you guys, but I've definitely had walked out of games in that era.
I thought I got both.
And still do. It's like, oh, I forgot. What did I forget? And just not be able to kind of cycle back through. Whereas at least this, you've got a very clear of, oh, okay, it was this, this particular target that I screwed up on.
Oh, I used it as a reset or whatever.
Yeah. Now where I think that this column becomes less useful is in sites where they're playing with more than 2 or 3 targets that are gettable during Space 5. I think then that column,
Space 5, but that's another conversation.
Then that column just becomes very, very cluttered. But I think when you're playing with either 2 or 3 targets, I think it's okay. I think it's fine.
Yeah.
Well, here's the other thing too, is that you actually can learn some important things about the game state based on which targets are got in which order. Like, if you know the arena a little bit, I could tell you in a lot of cases what path people have taken coming off of a nuke or something like that. If it's like, if they get the neutral first and then they get the opposite color base, they took a certain path. So you have a better idea of where they might be downstairs getting their base or something like that. And if you're watching another team and reviewing old footage or something like that, sometimes you can look for patterns and be like, oh, I know this player always gets their bases in this order. So if I can figure out like where they're going during a game, maybe I can pick up something about their tendencies from that. So there is actually useful information to be gleaned. Most of the time, I would agree that it kind of clutters things up, but because that information is still available, I think you can still draw some interesting things from it.
That's some high level play too. If you're now studying the patterns of individual players or particular teams about how their base runs are, that's pretty high level. Which power to you.
All I will say is it came in handy in Syracuse in a couple of games that came up.
Big brain play. All right, the next column's a score. Again, score is important. But it's not the be all and end all. It gives like a part of the picture, but doesn't fill in all the details. And it actually, I think on that analogy, you don't see that the score isn't as important until you kind of end the game, in my opinion. Because you just you're not getting a complete picture. After that, you've got your lives total, which I like DK, I agree. It's probably the first thing I look at when I'm trying to look at the flow of a game. The shots for me is also like quite an important one. In relation to like if I look at a lives total of a player, and they have no or are low on lives or whatever, I'll look to the shots, or if the ammo is dead, I'll look to the shots column of the rest of the team to see how many shots they've got left to play with during a game. Again, maybe not as important as lives, but still gives you some good information. In terms of presenting a score, more information is not always better. Elaborate. I don't understand.
Well, maybe not better for a general audience, but better for me trying to to see what players are doing.
Yeah, this from a spectator perspective.
Well, and one thing I would also say on like the shots versus lives, that would be something else, other information that's useful. If say a team gets really hammered and you see that like almost everybody on the team is down to single digit lives, or maybe everybody but the medic is down to single digit lives because they just got hammered off the start. In terms of trying to predict what's happening next in the game flow over whether, this game's going to be over super quick because this other team's just running over them, or if they have a chance to recover, one thing you can look at is look at the opposite team. What is their shot scenario like? Because if their commander is down to 2 shots and their heavy's down to like 3 shots or something like that, it's like, okay, well now we know why the other team was getting crushed. It's because the commander and heavy were just running over them, but they can't do that anymore. They need to go back and so the team, they have a chance, they have a little window here where maybe they can recover. It's just kind of a question of whether they will. But in other cases, it's like if the medic's already dead and everybody's down to single digit lives, you're like, okay, well, this is a wipe.
The next column after that is the missiles. Not super important from a spectator point of view.
But knowing that only commanders and heavies have missiles is an important thing to know if you're a new spectator.
Definitely. It also, comes in handy in specific situations like maybe, the commander has run out of shots and his ammo is dead, or their ammo is dead, but maybe they've got, 3 or 4 missiles left and maybe are 2 special points away from a nuke. That sort of stuff. Missiles
or
also
if you're in
score,
yeah. Or if you're in a situation where you're like, oh my god, how does that guy have 12,000 points and there's still 4 minutes left in the game or something like that? Look at how many missiles have they used, because good chance commander has a huge score and there's still like a good amount of game time left. They probably used all 5 of their missiles.
Yeah,
because that's an extra 2,500 points that you can get that can dramatically increase the amount that you're leading by.
So to kind of tie in with that is the last column, which is the special points, and I will touch on the yellow card in a second. Is the special points column.
Oh, the yellow card.
Special points, from a spectator's perspective, really the for me anyway, the only reason why I'm looking at the special points column is to see how far away from a nuke the commander is.
It's the commanders.
Yeah. Everyone else
other stuff is interesting, but as a spectator, that's what you need to look at. It's the commander special points.
So the commander needs 20 special points in order to drop a nuke, and it has the ability to kind of stack special points to drop multiple nukes in a row. So if we're looking at this game, for instance, we can see that both commanders have a similar score. Well, actually, Dill's quite a bit ahead.
But again, information that we can see from this is that Dill has already used a nuke and a missile because he has 4 missiles.
That's what I was going to say. So they've got similar score. Bagel Bites has more special points, and Dill has almost got to 20. You can kind of glean, okay, Dill's actually already dropped one of his nukes and is on his way to having a second nuke, whereas Bagel 3 is almost at their first nuke, and you can kind of tell that.
You mean Bagel Bites is it 1.5?
Bagel Bites, yeah. Sorry, the fucking stupid team.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, Steve's triggered again.
Yeah,
yeah. No, this is still one of the dumbest things ever at a tournament.
Yuck.
But anyway, that is a whole other rant.
I don't know. That's pretty dumb things happen in tournaments. This is like a minor annoyance.
Dumbest thing from a naming perspective.
Yeah, short hair Steve. He's so disgusted he just walked off camera. Watching a resupply die with a boost. Yeah, that one's dumb. don't like that one. But yeah, it's okay. So Bagel Bites has just gotten to their second nuke, which, you know, if you're a spectator, you could say, well, I know this player, they like to drop when they get to 2 nukes, so they're probably likely to go somewhere after they resupply, because I think that's what they're doing. Also, if you're streaming a tournament, don't put the fucking Twitch chat over the game ticker. That's really annoying. Stupid Steve.
God, what a moron!
What an idiot.
Yeah, what sort of jerk would do that?
But yeah, those are kind of, that's what the main points of the scoreboard you need to kind of understand. The last one being, you can see Dinkelberg's got a yellow card there. I guess it was a little while now. Basically, there's a penalty system for our Space Marines tournaments. The referees who wear referee suits have the ability now to, like, tag players who have infringed on the rules and give them a penalty, so it's assessed in game. We used to go through a whole rigmarole afterwards and assess penalties after the game. It was just
The
dumb.
dark times.
Yeah,
In the bad old days.
yeah, this way's way better. But yeah, that's what kind of each column does. What would you say? Yeah, so to go back to the way to read the game, how would you read the game with knowing what each of the columns do? What's the
Well,
column?
I mean the current game that's being played, like I'm reading game state is Chula's actually on top of this
Chula
game
being
because
the red team?
Chula being the red team. Yeah, so sorry because yeah, they're score wise, sure they're down by 4,000 points, but they have like 9 grand less in bases
Mm-hmm.
than the Loveland team who's green. You know, both commanders have dropped some nukes. The green commander has, but has both their bases. Red commander doesn't have any,
So pretty
there's
similar
just-
scores. All things
Yeah, so those scores are similar. But yeah, so looking at this game, and also the green medic is
Medic
on
lives.
1 life.
medical.
There's 7.5 minutes left in the game. It's a 15-minute game. So we're at the midpoint of this game. The green medic has 1 life left. The green team in general is not necessarily super healthy. They're healthy-ish. You know, the overall total lives between the teams, yeah, sure. It's 77 lives on green versus 81 on red. And if you're just looking at the totals, you're like, yeah, okay. But then you look at that 1 medic life on green versus 9 medic lives on red. And since we know that the commanders have basically thrown an equal number of nukes, like at this point there's no nuke stack coming to drop that 9 lives off of the red medic. So this game you can look at and go, green's got a big problem here. This, I mean, could green still win this game? Yes, it's not out of the realm of possibility, but it is a low percentage win because they would need to basically stack an amazing defense on their medic. They need to prevent the red commander from getting to his next nuke, which since he still has bases to get, like he's got 10 free specials to get to his next nuke if he wants to use them. So and they need to get everybody to full while maintaining stack defense and trying to prevent the commander from getting to his next nuke, because that next nuke, at worst, that's going to kill the medic, and if their defense doesn't hold, their medic is dead before then. So yeah, this is one of those scenarios that I'm looking at this, and this is maybe a 1 or 2% victory chance for green at this
pretty
game.
low. Yeah.
Red should take this game pretty handily and in a relatively short-ish time frame.
And the time ingredient is important too. We didn't talk about the timer that's on there, but when the
Yeah.
timer is visible, that makes a big difference too. There is a world of difference between having your medic on 1 life with 1 minute remaining and 7 minutes remaining.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world if your medic is down to 1 life and you only have a minute of game time left. As long as people aren't, all the way down on single digit lives themselves, which they shouldn't be if their medic's alive, then the team's gonna live. So you at least give them the fighting chance in that regard. But
Yeah, so game
with this
time
amount of time
is-
left, if the green medic goes out within the next few seconds, or even really within the next minute, it's the overwhelming likelihood is that red team will win by elimination.
Yeah. So a couple of points to know. The game time for Space Marines for us is 15 minutes. That's the proper game length. And if you get one thing with the yellow cards, if you get a yellow card, it deducts 1,000 points from your score. Hence why Applesauce is now in the negative. So if you kind of look at
if you've configured your settings properly,
right,
it will not take off 1,000 points. But yes,
yeah,
that does happen to be why Applesauce is on a negative 1,000.
And it's also why. So again, and I harp on about it, but the biggest, I think, for most other forms of laser tag or competition laser tag, the score is the main indicator of how a team or an individual is doing. This is why the score for Space Marines doesn't tell the whole picture, because if you're just looking at the score on this, green team are ahead, and ahead by a decent amount. Pause the video. We'll get there. But yeah,
the suspense is killing me.
The last thing as well is if you manage to eliminate the other team before, was it 60 seconds left in the game?
It's 40 seconds.
40 seconds.
It's either 35 or 40. I can't remember what the timer is set at right now.
Then if all remaining players who are alive on your team that don't have their bases will automatically get awarded the bases at the end of the game. So yeah, you'll be able to see that when we unpause the video. But yeah, it's So watching the lives total for me is the first thing I look at. There we go. The medic just died out on the green team.
Yep, and Bagel 3, the other scout who was low, didn't manage to get even one more tap of lives where they got taken out. Yeah. So that is also something to look at. Like, ooh, if they would have just gotten one more tap of lives, they'd be at 11 instead of 6 right now.
Yeah,
and there's not as many options they have.
Pretty much, if you're 10 or around that 10 lives or under, you probably need to be going back to your resupply. So yeah, being on single digits of either lives or shots is definitely a concern in a Space Marines game. The amount of times I've seen people, in like say the Aussie titles or like Armageddon streams, that will sit on sort of 5 lives as an ammo for 1 to 2 minutes. Just it drives me crazy. If you're under 10 lives. 10 lives are on it, you have the fun of having your suit betraying you, wanting lives low. Exactly right.
Well, now it can betray you anytime. It's like you have 17 lives remaining.
It's like, shut the fuck up.
I don't care.
Yeah.
17 is not a check-in point for me, but yeah.
Used to be how you play with single-digit lives. How did that work out for you, Ducky? 2006? 2008? Boom.
Wow.
So unnecessary.
I wasn't even gonna go there. I mean, that was.
I'm joshing. I'm just joshing. First thing Ducky does is punch me in the face when I see him next. Hey, remember that
podcast?
Podcast?
Fun scene at the airport.
Yeah. I'm definitely gonna stream it. So I think, I mean, if you look at this game, you look at the lives, you see obviously the green team's no longer able to get any more lives, so they are likely going to get killed out. Although Bagel 6 has quite a few.
And depending on how leisurely Red wants to be in getting their bases, they might not flip ahead on the score until they actually eliminate the other team. They probably will at this pace because there's a lot of Red on the left side of the screen, and Bagel Bites is down to 2 shots. So if he doesn't get some shots in there, he's not even really going to be able to fight back effectively.
Yeah. Those who didn't experience the millennial rollover can sit down. I don't understand what that means.
he's saying basically, if you're young, sit down and shut up.
We were in the city when for the millennium.
Everybody here was alive and quite conscious when that rollover happened.
Yeah,
When I say here, I mean appearing on this podcast.
Borderline was probably had some alcohol in their hand. Yeah. What else was I gonna say? So yeah. I kind of had like a bunch of things, but I think the most important thing is, if you're gonna do a stream for a Space Marines 5 tournament, you have to have the scoreboard up, and you kind of have to understand. You have to understand the importance of like reading the scoreboard as a whole. I would say after that, if you can add in a commentator who knows what they're talking about, that's probably also really important. So, like, Stallion did the commentary for the Triple Threat tournament. Stallion has a wealth of knowledge when it comes to Space Marines because he's been around since the turn of the millennium. I don't know if you know this, but
he knows a thing or two because he's seen a thing or two.
What a very polite way of calling him old. Well done.
Seasoned, if you will.
But having a knowledgeable commentator on stream to kind of explain the nuances of the scoreboard and what they're reading and kind of explaining that as they go, I think that's also really important if you can get it. We've had a few tournaments in the last little while where people have stepped into the commentary role who may not have been around for very long or don't quite understand all of the nuances of the game. I'm of the belief that if you want to step into the commentary box, absolutely should. But if you haven't been around for very long, maybe step in the commentary box with somebody who has, so they can kind of explain, things that you might get wrong. But yeah, it's important to have someone who knows what they're talking about. Otherwise, you get misinformation. I think one of the things that was said was during the Get. I'm gonna bring it up because fuck it. One of the things that was said during the Get commentary was the medic and ammo get points when they resupply their own team. That is not correct.
Alas, not true.
Not
or
true.
I'd be much more trigger happy as an ammo.
Yeah, I would.
My scores would be much better as a resupply. Yeah.
That is absolutely not the case. This is why sports broadcasts have expert commentary. Yeah, exactly right. As you guys can see, Green Team have just gotten punished in this game. Yeah, it's a
looks like our predictions were accurate.
Yes,
dead
by
on.
and large.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you have people on the microphone who are a little less experienced at playing the game or don't completely understand the game, then they can pass on misinformation, which makes it, I guess, harder for people who aren't, who are watching who may not know the game as well as some people. Yeah, but that guy. But yeah, what do you guys think about that?
I mean, yeah, I feel like from a high level cover of how to read a thing and using this specific game state just kind of as an example. Like I feel like if you had no grounding and are hopefully watching this on YouTube, because this is going to be a really shitty Spotify episode.
Look over here.
Yeah, that's assuming that this ever gets uploaded to Spotify. I haven't done that for a while.
Okay, that's fair. So if you're hopefully you're watching this on YouTube or with the Twitch VOD on replay, and you can get the visual for the things that we're talking about. But yeah, the other key there is that there's no substitute for just watching more games to understand better what's happening. It's like there's no real substitute for playing more games to understand what's happening as well.
What'd you miss? The podcast?
Yeah, Vince, you didn't miss anything. Nothing whatsoever.
Yeah.
You know you know we don't do actual content on this show. We just waffle a whole bunch of.
Yeah. So, um, yeah, scoreboard knowledge is king. Getting the scoreboard on the screen is king. Getting people who can explain the scoreboard to people who don't know how to read the scoreboard is also really important. And if you could teach people how to read a scoreboard properly, it's pretty magical thing at a Nats having, like 30 people sitting in a semicircle around the scoreboard in the foyer during a final series, watching the ticker, watching the teams kind of flip flop, watching nuke drops happen and base runs happen and resupply flushes happen, all just from the text on the scoreboard. It's pretty cool. It's wow, cool.
And watching somebody try to run up the clock with 7 lives left and a minute to play.
So good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
a lot
good.
of interesting things. So that's to say, if you find yourself in a situation where you bring your significant other to a tournament because you're a terrible person, and why would you inflict that on someone? That now you can show them this video and say, here's what to look for on the screen when we're playing, so it doesn't look like just a bunch of people staring at the Matrix.
Yeah, 100%. We're looking at you, Hoodlum. So yeah, is there anything else that you guys would like to touch on with this?
I feel like we've touched on this at a high level enough.
There's too many edge cases where I could go off on tangents for an hour at a time. So that's probably a good primer for how to read the scoreboard, I feel like.
Yeah, I think so too. Not bad for a shoehorned episode. We've got obviously an international tournament coming up, which is pretty.
We do?
Oh, we never covered the ticket. Actually, we could quickly touch on that. So, I think that there's a ticker on the underside of the commentary camera in this particular instance, that has some really important information coupled with what's going on the actual scores. I think seeing the scores is the baseline. You need to be able to see like the scoreboard at the very least.
The ticker is in some ways kind of self-explanatory because that does actually tell you what the action that's happening in a game is. But it's important to make those notes so you can know who to make fun of for getting missiled during the game when you see Dill locks and missiles whichever bagel he decided to slice up at any given time.
One of the most important things to catch in the ticker is nuke cancels. Yes, it is. I find that the ticker can get quite hectic because it happens in real time. I find.
And because you're watching the scoreboard, it's why it's so easy to miss the nuke cancels, because you see somebody drop those special points and then you're like, oh, the nuke didn't go off. Oh, it must have gotten canceled. And then you're like frantically searching the scroller to be like, oh, who canceled it? Who canceled it?
Yeah. But the ticker can move quite quick, and in this instance, it's annoying because I'm the one who set this particular scene up, and I've put the Twitch chat over the ticker, which is pretty dumb. But
there's word to your producer.
Definitely not one of your finer moments from scene setup. I mean, if we're doing on air critiques, this was not one of your better moments.
We clearly should have put the scroll over our faces. Nobody wants to see that.
I mean, honestly, that's the only other place where you can kind of put it, but there's not really many good places on the screen.
I guess you could put it in the lower left, but then it's going to cover up people's names at least a little bit, but not a ton.
What it kind of does is, because the scoreboards now expand depending on how many new columns they add in. So as you can see there, the red one's a little wider because Fireball DK got an achievement for something. Who cares? But yeah, as more and like penalties will stretch it out again, so it can kind of interfere. I find that the most important thing is not to cover anything on the actual scoreboard itself, but it happens. The ticker is just an explanation of what the score display is representing. Exactly right, Ducky. So whilst it is handy to have it there for newer players to kind of read through, once they get the hang of reading the scoreboard itself, you can kind of do without the ticker. It does have really handy stuff, but it's not, critical to have it there. You try tying it.
But when you want to know who got that last medic life, who just got missiled, who canceled that nuke, then it's good to check the ticker.
Again, that's all like color commentary, right? Like it's all stuff that adds to it.
Yeah, and I guess it's another topic, probably for another week. Going back and reviewing games that you've been in and things to look for on the scoreboard, like to improve your own play. But this is just introductory reading the scoreboard. But hey, there's another show topic that I'm tossing out there right now is Monday morning quarterbacking. How do you review your footage?
Real quick shout out to Micro who just disappeared off the screen, but I thoroughly enjoyed doing commentary with him at Colorado. It was great. While the experienced players might look almost solely at the scoreboard, the ticker is how most understandable. Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of, it is helpful, especially for newer people. As newer SM5 spectators, it is definitely a helpful thing. Right. Is that it? Is that all?
I guess that's it.
Yeah. I think that's a good even place to leave it for
I might get to play laser tag next week. That's exciting.
Let's go.
Fuck you. Fuck you.
If so, there will probably be some kind of poster announcement. I imagine stuff's getting streamed, but I don't know. I'm not in charge of that crap.
Actually, on that, so DK apparently is busy over the next month. So
well, maybe the next 2 weeks are really up in the air. The kind of the Friday before Nats, I will almost certainly be gone because I'm probably going to be visiting Portland, and I'm not going to duck into Than's office to do the podcast from there. I'm sorry, I have other things to do. But other than that, so we'll see. I'm kind of a maybe for the next few weeks. But worst case scenario, I'll see you jokers in Auckland.
Oh, it's so close.
One joker in Auckland.
Yeah. Only one of us will be in Auckland.
I mean, I will still see you. I'll be in Auckland. You'll be somewhere else, but I'll still be able to see you on the screen. If you appear on screen.
Auckland is what, 4 weeks away. In fact, I believe it's the 24th today here. 24th of July is the first day of international. So we are a month away. Ladies and gentlemen.
It's getting real. So
it is.
Really got to start upping that training regimen. I feel good. I feel good, but it's like there's always going to be a little bit more. I feel like I could be more ready.
Not
that guy. Not that guy.
Nah, we like we talked about it last week. We haven't played. We're just now starting to play for the first time in our maze. There's been a change that's happened, which has changed our arena dramatically, which won't be the case for lasers. For internationals, but I'll tell you what it is after. Jar Jar Binks is all I'll say. Is Jar Jar Binks.
That's terrifying. I have no response to that.
But yeah, it's been great to play in the maze. It's been great to have carpet in the maze. Like it's beautiful to play laser tag again, and to actually be excited about playing tag again, because I really am. I'm so excited about this tournament. I'm so excited. I keep flip-flopping because at the start I was more excited about the travel after. I think I flipped back the other way, and I'm
it all sounds pretty good to me. It all sounds pretty good.
So good. The Sith
Lord Jar Jar. It's gonna be pretty good 2
We'll
weeks.
be doing streams over the week, I hope. Keep an eye on the Discord. We will try and get some Thunderdome done this week if Gray is available. I don't actually have any more Lego streams, so we might do another parts or something. We'll do something. And then worst case scenario, you'll see me and Than here next week. Maybe not DK. Hopefully. But for this week, I've been Guy Next Door.
I've been DK.
And I've been Than.
Always remember to backtrack, kids. We will see you next week. Ka kite anō.